Hey guys, and welcome to the latest episode of Cultured Boys, a show where two guys just want to talk about some cultured stuff. As always, I'm joined by Pepe, my co-host. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to talk about some cultured stuff. I think that I've never heard that one before.
I don't know, it's just us trying something new. I don't know if I like it or not, but yeah,
Or if
just
it's,
want to give
see
it
if
a
it sticks. Right. So, what is the cultured stuff for today, Nathan?
Well, today we're reaching into the manga anime verse, the true culture of the internet. We want to talk about manga or anime series that ended too soon or were axed. Let's call it what it is, right? Most of the time it's not that they ended too soon. Most of the time it's they got cancelled.
I mean, it's like I think both of us have a few different series that we can go through that we're passionate about. I know you especially because you have a lot of series you just read and you're cursed or something because you read this shit and it just ends like about 20 weeks later.
Yeah, I've got a bad track record. I like to read the new stuff, and a lot of the new stuff doesn't stick,
Nah.
unfortunately.
But let's crack on with it then, Nathan. I'll let you start considering you're the cursed one here.
Why you gonna do me like? Okay,
Yeah.
you gonna do me like that? Fine. So I'm gonna start off with, I guess, an older series by this point. It was called Shounen, and it was a football, English, by the way. It was a bunch of kids, almost like Inazuma 11-esque. Bunch of little kids on a football team, a weekend team, trying to compete. They weren't the best team, but every kid had sort of like a skill. Then this new girl comes along, and she's amazing. She's really good. And they start winning games. But it didn't get the numbers. People weren't interested. And it had a inexplicable time skip and ended within the last 2 or 3 chapters it had. I think it only had a total of maybe 20 something chapters.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it sounds like it bombed then.
Yeah, pretty hard.
Is it like sort of because you've read Haikyuu and Kurokos no Basket? There's like those series when it's a sports series. It's either they go really realistic with it and go high on the action, or they go with like the supernatural thing where it's like, oh, this person's got special moves, sort of thing. Like, oh, he's like the best like passer or something.
It was somewhere in between. It was about sort of like the skill of football, right? Because it was like, oh, like these kids, they're good at like dribbling and stuff. But it was still like, manga-esque. So it was like, oh, this one kid, our captain, he's a bit heavier than the rest of us. So he's got a really heavy foot. So when he goes for the kick, you better move out of the way or he's going to knock you out with the football.
When you say heavy foot, you mean like clubfoot or something?
No, it was literally because, like, Japan in it. So it's like the kid was a little fat. That was it. He was a little fatter than the rest of them, which meant he had some more weight behind him. And then it was like his super missile kick or whatever the fuck it was called. It was stuff like that. Like each kid sort of had like a specialty kick or something, like skill. But it wasn't like super fantastical where it was like, oh, like a dragon appears out of somewhere or whatever. Like things don't just manifest. It's sort of somewhat reality based, but also kind of harsh in that one example because the fat kid.
I do get what you mean because I think that's a tough one with a lot of sports series these days. It's going for something that's original, and I think there's been like a manga for like every sport that's been out there.
Oh, there has to.
I think especially with the football/soccer, it's hard to like measure up to some of those older series as well. Because like when you got stuff like Captain Tsubasa and Whistle, like those are like two massive series about soccer, football. Like it's like living up to that. It's like the equivalent of like living up to like Slam Dunk or I Shield 21. Like those are like really iconic sports series in Weekly Jump, and trying to do another one of those isn't an easy task at all.
I also think it came out a little bit after like Inazuma 11 died down.
Yeah.
Because like Inazuma 11 was quite popular. It even had its own anime. I'm pretty sure it was a game first.
Yeah.
And then got an anime/manga. It was, I think Shounen had come out around the third Inazuma 11 game. And I don't think the third one did as well. So it sort of fit in that same space, and I think it's just poor timing, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's all about what's going on right there. Like, they probably chose it to go and Jump because, like you said, because of the Inazuma 11 hype. It must have been like, oh, okay, we can tap into this and sort of maybe get a little bit off that. But obviously, there's a line between tapping into a genre and just straight up like riding on the back of it. Like, and if you're riding on the back of it, it's not going to do as well because obviously it's something better out there.
I just think it would have been unfairly compared because they were very similar. Like Inazuma 11 did have like fantastical, like, this is my specialty, like flame dragon shot or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would have like an animation and stuff. But again, it was because it was a game, but it was still somewhat realistic. And I think that's why Shudan probably suffered from that because it was like almost exactly the same. Like it fit the same thing. And both were about like younger. Well, like Inazuma 11 sort of like, I think they're like 12, 13. And Shudan, they were like 10. But you see what I mean? Like there's a lot of overlap.
Like on a scale of like, so you say Shudan only had about 20 chapters or so. But
yeah,
like,
I think something around there.
Oh, like not very many. Like, do you think compared to some series in Jump where you've seen like they get cancelled really quickly, do you think it is that sort of vibe? Like, because sometimes they get cancelled. These series get cancelled really quickly because they literally just don't bang, and you're like, this is shit. I can see why it's getting cancelled. Like, do you believe that like Shudan actually deserved to get cancelled for what it did?
I don't personally. Yeah. I thought it was going places because it was starting to pick up. Like they had their team set out and everyone was starting to gain skills and get a bit more confident and they were like winning games, but they were still struggling.
Yeah.
So there was still like loads of progression, but for whatever reason, it just didn't connect with people. And that's why I feel like Shudan was one that could have gone somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully like there's like another, like I think there's been a few different soccer ones that have been out there, like that have been cancelled quite quickly. So I'm sure that I don't know how often they come up these days. So I don't often read a lot of the sports ones that come out.
I don't feel like I see too many of the football ones. Like
maybe it is like they just don't bang, so they just don't bother. But who knows? Maybe one day like there'll be a time where one does come through and actually shines. Like Haikyuu, for example, like that did really well because it was volleyball. And you didn't really have a series out there at the time that was like that. So maybe like what other sport can you do these days that comes through like and is unique that hasn't been done before?
Ultimate frisbee.
I mean, I'd read it. I think like if they ever did do an ultimate frisbee series, I feel like it'd be more comedy than actual sport manga, like intensity.
Like, I don't know why only like frisbee sports are going through my head right now. Like I'd also just thought like frisbee golf. There you
frisbee golf, you know. I mean, we did have that golf one, Robot Laser Beam, by the same.
Yeah, that's on my list. I wasn't going to mention it. Yeah, well, because I liked it. Yeah. I know you didn't, and a lot of people didn't. I liked it.
I mean, okay, well, we might as well just go straight into it since it's been mentioned. So we're going to do two of Nathan's.
We don't have to.
I think we might as well.
Oh, man, I feel like I've wasted a spot now.
No, we'll roll with it. Because I think Robot Laser Beam is one of those series. The reason why I didn't get on board with it, the reason why I dropped off was because they suddenly just threw a time skip in the middle of it. For those who don't know about Robot Laser Beam, it's by the same mangaka that did Kurokos no Basket. So the art was always on point with that series. I think it was really good.
Yeah.
And like the main character, I can't even remember the main character's name. Do you remember?
Robo.
Oh, literally Robo. Of course it was. Robot Laser Beam. Yeah, like the main character, he was quite cool. Like he was a unique character, good character design. Like personality was cool.
I mean, can you really say that the character had a lack of personality? That's why they often called him Robot, because he was like emotionless.
But that's the thing, because he was emotionless, he came with like there was that comedy element that came with it. It's like that a little bit compared to Psyche in a way. I know like in Psyche Kuso no Sainan, it's like Psyche was sort of just annoyed with everything, but like he didn't have like the most. There's the characters that are around him that kind of developed him a little bit. I know it's very different to Robot Laser Beam. That's a very different comparison. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed Robo as a character. I think it's the story in that series that kind of let it down a little bit for me.
Personally, I think it was too much of a tonal shift constantly because
Yeah.
it'd be like ha ha ha, really funny comedy, and then oh, we got to get serious because you got to play golf now, and it was like the shift was too abrupt every time.
Yeah. I feel like for me, what really killed Robot Laser Beam was the time skip. I'm gonna like just say it now because the time skip in Robot Laser Beam just came way too early. Like you get these time skips where they're like about what was it, 100 chapters in, 200 chapters in at least, like minimum that is. Like at least establish the
Yeah.
characters a bit more. But suddenly you've got this time skip in about 20 chapters, and it just felt like, oh, I didn't even get to know some of the other characters that well, and the time skip just kind of feels ineffective because you don't know how much they've grown, these characters, because you don't know how much they've grown. Like you barely got to know them beforehand. So and now suddenly there's all these other characters that come in, like, oh, this guy's like the best in this region or whatever. And it just like it for me is like, well, I don't really care about that because they were never established beforehand. And I think I don't hate the series. I don't dislike the series, but I can kind of see why it was cancelled.
I can see why it's cancelled, but I also want to say, don't you think though that that time skip being so early might have been indicative of the author being told early, like, this is getting cancelled. You've got X amount of time.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Possibly, yeah. It depends. Like, obviously, we don't know what went on behind the scenes of Weekly Jump because I don't think it was doing that bad beforehand.
No, but I do remember every time we checked the rankings, it was quite close to the bottom.
Yeah, much like a lot of new series, to be fair. And yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, I can understand why. I just hope that like this mangaka gets another chance to create a good series because Kuroko the Basket is it's a great one.
That was a wicked series.
Yeah. Speaking of, should I mention my first series then?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
It's Kuroko no Basket.
Good, because that's also on my list, because it did abruptly end. That was one that wasn't cancelled. It just abruptly ended. It did have a small, like, sequel.
Yeah.
But that was, like, really small.
Yeah, it was it was about 5 or 6 chapters long, that, wasn't it? But Kuroko no Basket, basketball series, I'm pretty sure like a lot of people are seeing it now. It's on Netflix, which is good. So like people can watch this thing.
Kuroko's Basketball.
Yeah.
Go give it a watch if you haven't.
100%.
Pretty good.
It's brilliant basketball series. And it's like that's the thing we were saying about earlier, like the Shounen thing and the like different older series. Like because Slam Dunk is another iconic basketball series that appeared in Jump, and that's the thing that I felt separated these two because Kuroko no Basket felt so like it had that supernatural element with like the what was it what were they called? What was the team? What was the
the Generation of Miracles.
Generation of Miracles, yeah, because I remember Kuroko's Phantom Sixth Man. That's a bit I remember. But the series is brilliant and I loved it. And what it's like you said, it did end really abruptly, not with a time skip, which is great. I'm glad it didn't end with a time skip. But like there was I felt like there was room for more story. Like
there was,
yeah.
And I guess they just didn't want to go through it because the whole series, like spoilers, I guess, is them. The main character Kuroko was part of the best team in middle school, and now they're all in high school. They've all gone off to separate teams, and now they have to face off in like the high school national championship. That's what everyone wants to do. Pretty standard shonen sports manga. It basically builds up to the point where they would get to their final goal, and you're like, right, so where's it going next? Because I'm pretty sure they all do this within like the first year of high school, so they've still got like 2 more years. And they could compete some more, and there'd be new people on the scene, but they just never did it.
I can understand why it ended because once Kuroko's defeated all of the Generation of Miracles and Seer get the top and they win the competition, and all the senpais are leaving and stuff, like, oh, this is my final tournament, I have to go or whatever. I can understand, it's a good point to end it. I can understand that, but I feel like there's still room that you could have gone with it. Like, maybe there was like a second Generation of Miracles and like this, how Kuroko and Ko like overcome that. Maybe it might have been a bit too cheesy. Like maybe it was the right decision. Maybe this is like me talking it out, and I'm like, maybe Kuroko no Basket did end at a right point, but there was still room for improvement on it.
I wanted more. We got more, but like I wanted more than what we actually got, because I don't know if you read the small like continuation. Basically, an American team come over, and the American team are like just the biggest group of douchebags, because every single one of them is like a special person, like their version of the Generation of Miracles, and they're facing off against, like the makeshift team from Japan, which is basically all the Generation of Miracles on one team.
And Kagami and Tiger as well.
Yeah.
Like it's all the Generation of Miracles. And then you've also got Tiger there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he in himself was like on par with them towards the end. But it's just like, I don't know, it wasn't enough. It focused too much on like the politics of like, oh, these American guys, they're coming in and they're disrespecting us and whatever. And then like it gets to the actual game, and yeah, there's struggles and stuff. But like it felt like they spent too much time on being like, oh, these gaijin. Fucking.
It's a typical American arriving in Japan trope, isn't it? It's like the Americans arrive and they're all cocky and they need like teaching a lesson because they're being disrespectful. And it's just like, it's that typical American character in an anime or manga, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and like the main guy on the American team is like your standard scumbag, like off the street, like gangster type.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he had like slick back hair, and I feel like he probably carried a switchblade at one point. But he was that typical kind of like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm the best. I'll fuck you up, and I ain't scared to do it.
It's like pure villainy with that character. Yeah, there was no. Yeah. It didn't feel like there was any
redeeming. Feat. Yeah.
Exactly that. No redeeming features. And like the thing is, with that those extra chapters, they weren't horrendous. Like the story was still there. It's like, oh, you got a cool mini arc at the end of it. But oh no, like it's like you said, it isn't enough to be like, I'm happy with the way that ended. You know what I mean? It just feels a bit like...
Well, especially because it came out like almost directly after
it did,
Kuroko no Basket ended. So you just sort of like, you still had that urge, you still had that need for the series to continue. And it was like, I don't know, it's kind of like blue balls, you know what I mean? Like they're like teasing you like super hard, and you're like, yeah, and they're edging you, and then nothing happens and you just die inside.
Yeah, it's a shame about it, really. It's a good series, but like I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see like I don't know, something today. Like even though the series ended, it must have been like 5 or 6 years ago. I think. I think it ended in 2015. I want to say, because I feel like I started it and then it ended literally about half a year later.
I pretty much read it from the start. Because it was just one of those things, you know, at the time we were reading lots of manga, and a new one came out and I was like, cool, what's this about?
Yeah.
Luckily, it wasn't one that, died within 30 chapters.
I'll tell you what, Nathan, because I used to keep track of the rankings and like the table of contents in Jump, like way back in the day when we first met, actually. Like, I remember like keeping an eye on this, and the two series that were quite consistently low at the bottom were Kuroko no Basket and Nisekoi. And I think they did just start. And like both of those series turned out to be like long-lasting series in Jump. But at the start, they were both at the bottom. And I'm glad that both of them actually survived and actually did quite well in the end.
I mean, I'm not into Nisekoi, so I can't speak on its behalf. But yeah, I mean, Kuroko no Basket, I'm glad it got the chance to tell the story it wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love a lot of these sports mangas because they're like easy reading. You know what I mean? Like it tends to be more about the art than the actual like text, which I like because I'm a simpleton. I don't want to read. I want to see the pictures.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, I tend to read a lot of these new sports ones because you never know what's going to stick. Unfortunately for me, I tend to read a lot of the ones that end up dying, which is why most of my list all consists of sports mangas. Despite myself also not being the most athletic or interested in sports at all. The irony.
The like that's the one thing about it. Like I am like it's like you. I am in no way interested in sports in real life, but I'll happily get on board with a sports series that like just because like it's great storytelling, the art's cool. It's like you said, like with sports series, the art is like one of the main points of this, and you want it to look cool, and it just feels epic half the time with these, and it's nice.
Yeah, you want all the like action lines and stuff, you know, like for the impacts and stuff. Like the art in those look really cool, and it's interesting because it's a shonen, so it's like battle, but in a a somewhat non-conventional you know, fighting fist to fist. You know, it's not hand to hand combat like Dragonball or whatever. You know, it's not sword fighting like Demon Slayer. It's you know, still physical, but it's different, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah. No, but yeah, as we both said at the start, like Kurokos no Basket's on Netflix. Go check it out. I think the whole series is up there now, and the anime is literally just as good as the manga. I'd recommend either one if you're a manga reader, anime watcher. Just give it a shot wherever you can because both of them are absolutely brilliant.
It's a series that has remained popular even to this day since its ending. Like, so don't sleep on that. Seriously.
Shall I go for my second series then?
Yeah. I still can't believe Robot Laser Beam counts as my second. Fucking hell. What a waste.
I mean, we can go for more anyway. Okay. My second one is gonna be Bilzebob.
Okay, I have this on my list too.
Okay. So, like, I feel like Bilzebob never really got its chance that much in the West. Like, I feel like it was a bigger series in Japan than it was here. It was just a really good comedy battle series, and it went on for maybe like 4 or 5 years. It was a good one, and it just ended really abruptly, really strangely, with a villain that didn't really seem that epic, and it just like it fell flat. I don't know what happened. It was like it was so unexpected that it just ended. It's one of those series. If I tried to describe Bilzebob, I reckon I'd make it more complicated than ever for someone to understand what it's about. I don't know if you can elaborate, Nathan, and try and...
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try. So, Beelzebub is a series based around the one main character, Ogre, and there's the human world and the demon world. The demons, or the devil realm, or whatever the fuck it was called, they can make contracts with humans, and then those humans become powerful. And Baby Beel, or Beelzebub, I think he was being hunted by the big bad. And so he ends up with Ogre in the human world. And there's his nanny, Helga. She was fan service.
Sorry, you're not wrong. Yeah, there's that.
And it's basically the story of how Ogre and Baby Beel create this contract and bond. Ogre also happens to go to the worst school in the area, like a delinquent school, so everybody's always just fighting and there's gangs and stuff, and he ends up roping in. It initially started off that he was supposed to just become the strongest guy in school, take down all the gang leaders, and then eventually like all the gang leaders joined him and they became Baby Beel's army, like their generals. And yeah, it's basically right at the end, they fight the big bad throughout the whole series out of nowhere. It's very anticlimactic because it seems like all of a sudden, you know, they did some training and stuff, but like it just feels like all of a sudden Baby Beel and Ogre just have this fucking super connection, and then they beat the guy, and then it's graduation. A bunch of the people left the school, and then Ogre's one of them, and that's it. That was it. Series end.
It's like kind of, I don't know, like they didn't big up the final villain at all. Like I think at the start, wasn't it like Baby Beel got sent to Earth or sent to the human realm because he was trying, like, it was something to do with his dad. Like his dad like wanted to get rid of him or like make him better. I can't remember. It's one or two. I don't know. It's very few and far between there. It could be either one.
let's assume Superman Dragon Ball style.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Like,
But, the thing is, it's a good series. I don't think we're doing that well, explaining how epic the series was. Like, because there was some amazing.
it also
fights
needs
in
to
it.
be said.
Yeah.
We're both trying to explain this off the top of our heads. Like, just from memory, neither of us have reread this or done anything to reabsorb this media since it ended.
Yeah.
So I thought we did an okay job.
Yeah, it's like it's good. It's a good series regardless of how we've done it, because Nathan's done a good job of explaining it. I probably wouldn't have done a good job of that, but like it is.
Thank you.
It is a great series. Like some great comedy moments in there. I think that's what the mangaka does really well, especially with I want to say with his newer series that he did, because he's done 2 since then,
Which also ended.
Well, the thing is with his latest 2 series, I think he's a fantastic mangaka. His art's brilliant, and
Oh yeah, his art's always on point.
yeah, and like his story with the latest 2 isn't probably as good.
I don't know. The Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin was pretty good. That story I was actually invested much more than Hungry Marie. I think Hungry Marie I read like 4 chapters and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, Hungry Marie had like a weird concept. It was like sort of like the person switches places with a demon who eats stuff. I can't even remember how to describe it, because I didn't think it was that great. Like you, it just didn't bang as much.
Also, it like the characters looked exactly the same as the characters in Beelzebub. Like he basically reused the design. Like it was Ogre, but a shorter Ogre with a different name, and it was Helga, but a shorter Helga with a different name.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
Yeah, it didn't like. I think he still wanted to go with that supernatural concept with that, because it did still have like, oh yeah, this person like lives in a creepy house or something. So it still had that supernatural demon-esque vibe about it. Whereas Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin, I did appreciate a lot more, because it was like a completely different vibe to like what Beelzebub and Hungry Marie was. Yeah, sure, it's still in that supernatural-ish world, but it had a theme.
Yeah,
with it.
but it was like completely different.
Yeah.
Supernatural. Like I feel like a supernatural that you don't see often either, which was really cool. It's a shame that like once it got into all the lore stuff and started getting really interesting to me, that it then was like, cool, we're finished. Bye.
Yeah, it just didn't it just didn't slap as well as some of the other series in Jump, unfortunately, and it just didn't do as well, which is a shame, because I think the character designs were more unique compared to Hungry Marie and Beelzebub. It had a good concept. It's just a shame that it didn't carry on. But Bilzebob manga ended too soon. I think they got Kurokos in a Basket. It got like a few extra chapters at the end, but it didn't. It was like sort of spin-off.
Oh, it didn't go anywhere. That I read all of those, and that just went nowhere.
Yeah, it wasn't a fully fleshed arc. It wasn't like Kurokos in a Basket, where it had like, oh, I've got to fight this other team, and the game's ended, and it's like, friendship, blah blah blah. But this one, it was just like they went on a trip, they did something, it ended. Yeah.
If anything, it soured it for me. Like if they just never did it, I would have been like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. You want a continuation of
Like,
story more than anything. You don't want to just like a side story which isn't related. You want a continuation of the actual story. And
because if you're gonna do it, like you do something cool, right? If you know you've only got X amount, right, just do something really cool and really big and just leave it as is, right?
Yeah.
But if that's what you're gonna do, I would just don't bother.
Yeah.
All you're doing is like ruining the reputation of what preceded it.
I think that it must have been like some fan demand of, I want to see more, and then they delivered more, but it's not the more that you wanted. But no, fair enough. It's good. So, it's a shame that the anime ended as well, because I don't think they got that. They definitely didn't get as far as the manga did. But from what I hear, I think I've said this in a previous video as well, the anime didn't slap as well as the manga did. So maybe it ended at a good time for the anime. If it didn't hit, it didn't hit. But I'd love to see where Ogre and Baby Bill went after that, like how the other characters did. Yeah, it would have been nice to see a bit more continuation. It's a shame.
I used to think I wanted more, but you know what? After talking about it now, I kind of I could care less. It ended, and it's not even that. I just, you know, when you think about something, you're like, I feel nothing for this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's worse than being like, oh, I love this or I hated this.
Yeah.
When you feel nothing, then it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of sad, because I'm like, I did like that series, but now that I'm sat here just thinking about it, I'm like, I could care less.
Well, the thing is though, you still like the series. You still like the stuff that went on. It's just, as I said, it's a pretty shit ending on how it went. But the rest of the series was pretty good in itself. Like the characters were awesome, the fights were awesome. You can still like the series. It's just the ending.
Yeah.
It's just the ending was atrocious, and it didn't give much else. So yeah, but yeah, okay, go on, Nathan. Give another series for us then.
Okay, a slightly newer one. Zipman was a series that I really enjoyed. That came out a few years back. Had a pretty cool concept. Had a story set out for it. It just, I guess it didn't connect or whatever, but it just ended.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my opinion on this, just basically because I haven't read a chapter of Zipman, but I basically, based off my opinion and what a lot of people said about it online. Like I'm obviously it's online, so take it with a pinch of salt. But like my first impression of Zipman, based off the front cover, is like, oh, this is One Punch Man meets My Hero Academia. Because the art was like sort of, I felt the art for Zipman looked very similar to MHA.
That I can explain that. That's because the guy who made Zipman was actually an assistant to the guy who makes My Hero. So he obviously ended up learning that style.
Okay, yeah. So that explains it. It explains it there. Yeah, carry on. Go explain it to me, because I could be completely. That's the thing. I'm going off first impressions of the cover that was there, and like a few pages that I've seen. But yeah, explain to me Zipman.
So Zipman follows the story of these two brothers. One is a pure genius, like the smartest guy in the world, has the most successful company, and he's changing things for the better. He has a brother who is the complete opposite. He's pretty dumb, but he's also physically super strong. The story is that one day the super genius brother goes missing and is pronounced dead. And his younger brother, the dumb guy, he is basically trying to find out what's going on whilst also trying to just make his way in the world. What he wants to do is become the newest hero of a TV show, which is Power Rangers-esque. Anyway, hijinks ensue, and this suit appears out of nowhere, attaches to him and talks to him. Turns out his brother, the smart guy, his consciousness has been transferred into this suit. And it basically is the story of how they work together with this weird robotic suit to try and save his brother and the world. And it was cool because other people with these kind of suits turn up. They never got to explain where these suits come from, but each one had a different power, and it was called Zipman because it turns out these suits, if you take the zip off of one suit and then put it onto your own suit, you could gain the power of that other robotic suit.
Okay.
So it was like a cool concept, because it was kind of almost like it was almost like modifying your Gundam on the fly. Mm-hmm. And they were getting to that point. They fought some people, and they started taking their abilities. So they had a sword, they had a massive cannon, but because it wasn't popular, at the end it was just it did that fucking video game thing where, oh, it's Zipman, right? That's my suit. I'm Zipman. Here's White Zipman, and it was the evil version. Fight yourself, because Zipman was a black suit, so that's why it was White Zipman. Or Shiro's Zipman, or whatever the fuck they called it. I think it was actually Shiro. Or something like that, or Weiss.
Some word for white, yeah.
Yeah, and
Zipman Blanco.
I wouldn't be surprised. But it was just a shame, because I felt like this could have gone somewhere, because it had the mystery element, it had the fighting element, and it still had room for each character to grow.
Yeah.
Because the main character was, he was doing the normal shonen thing. I got to train, I got to get stronger, I need to protect the people around me. Whilst his brother and his team are like, we're still trying to figure out the mystery of how my consciousness was transferred to this suit. And then like they had the love interest. It was like a childhood friend. Yeah. She also gained the suit, and she realized who they were, and they were starting to build a team, and it was starting to get good, and then just died.
Oh, okay, that's a bit disappointing, to be fair, because I was like, it's one of those ones where like if a story's really peaking up just before it ends, it's really disappointing. That's what really lets it down. Like even if the series itself hasn't done amazingly, like it's still disappointing to see it build up to a point and then you just don't get any satisfaction out of that ending. That's a shame, because I don't know, personally, when you describe that to me, it kind of sounded like it took a few different tropes from other series, like the whole like the consciousness of the suit itself kind of sound like remember that series? I think it's called Kill la Kill. Yeah. It kind of like, because that was like a consciousness in like, there's the like these clothes. Were, like,
the clothes was like aliens or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. I never really watched the series. I think I watched four.
I never watched that. That was one of those series I avoided because I was like, that's too anime for me.
Yeah. It is. I think it is one of those ones. I didn't get too far in the series. People like it though, and if you like it, fair enough. But like it kind of sounds a bit similar to that. At least I know now that it's completely different. It's an original concept, and I think like it was original as it can be for Jump anyway. And yeah, fair enough. It's a shame that it ended like that, I guess.
It was. Because, like, again, like, towards the end, they started introducing more of these suited villains. And, again, they were building up their arsenal and they were getting better at their teamwork. And it's just an interesting world, right? Because it's essentially anyone can use these suits. It wasn't one of those where they were like, oh, you need to be compatible. You could literally just be a regular person, zip up this suit, and now you've got this fucking weird robot suit, right? And they were starting to introduce that all over the place. There were more villains. There were more people on their side that were starting to use these suits. And I just thought it was a cool concept that it wasn't like, oh yeah, like normally you'd think like robots or like exoskeleton suits or something. You'd have to like rip off, physically break off or steal the thing, right? And then it'd have to be a lengthy like process to adapt it to your suit. But I thought it was cool that they would just sort of like, nah, zip. Like you can change your weapons on the fly because you just like unzip it, zip another one on. It was really cool.
Oh man, that's a shame. Though.
Yeah, I know. It was a typical shonen that had this like Power Ranger elements, and I don't understand why it didn't quite hit the way it hit me. But there you go. That's definitely a series I would have loved to see more of.
Yeah,
like I reckon that could have been a really cool game and everything as well.
Yeah, I mean like it depends on what's in Jump at the same time as well, because obviously you got My Hero right now. I'm not saying that My Hero is completely the same as it. Obviously it's like sort of superhero-ish.
I think that's what really did it in as well, was that people didn't understand that, well, why has this thing come out and it looks almost exactly like My Hero. And
poor timing, if anything. Yeah. Maybe it would have done better if like it came out, if My Hero had ended at one point and then this thing came along. Because there has been like some series, like there's a series that came out called We Never Learn. I can't remember the Japanese name for it.
Oh yeah,
but
I can't remember that. Boku something.
But that came out directly after Nisekoi ended, and that series was actually one of the, I think it was the assistant that worked on Nisekoi or did the Nisekoi spin-off manga at one point, and literally it like worked. It just fit perfectly because Nisekoi just ended. This thing came in. Still did pretty well, and like I think it ran for a good few years. Got a decent ending as well. I think it's just timing, isn't it? That's the thing with these series. Like if like this came along when My Hero ended, probably would have slapped. Probably would have done well. Probably like, but
I don't know. Like I reckon it could do well now. You know where My Hero is like gotten a bit way serious in the manga, at least. Like it's very serious, and something like Zipman, which was a little more colorful, a little more like light-hearted in a sense. I think now it could have done really well, because I feel like people are also at the moment, at least with the manga, like they're kind of falling off My Hero because it's sort of becoming a different thing.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, at the same time, it's getting more and more popular. So who knows what crackers with My Hero is right now. But yes, should I give my final series then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think like we've definitely discussed this before in previous videos. I think you kind of know what's coming up. It's Hitman Reborn, but we've talked about the manga quite a bit. It's a shame on how it ended. It's a disappointing ending. However, I'm more focused on the Hitman Reborn anime right now.
Okay, well, I never watched more than 3 episodes of it, so you'll have to enlighten me.
Okay, so with the Hitman Reborn anime, it was pretty good. Like it did the whole thing where it's like loads of the comedy stuff came first. So you got like a good series or 2 of the comedy stuff, which probably didn't. If you're just into comedy stuff, you'd be fine with it. But if you're looking for a serious battle manga, you probably wouldn't connect with it as much. As it got into it, the anime got really good. Like it got into all the battle stuff. The battle stuff was epic. The animation was cool for its time, and they got up to the future arc, and they completed the future arc, and they did the whole battle thing. Which is like arguably the future arc in Hitman Reborn is one of the best ones.
Yeah, agreed.
But it stopped after that. They didn't do.
Oh.
But they didn't do like stuff like what was it? It was the Earth Rings, weren't it? The series after that.
Yeah.
And then there was the Arkabelenko fight, or however you pronounce it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like there was those 2 series after that, and they didn't cover any of it. And those are bits that I thought would have been so cool to see if they were animated. Like I would have loved to see those, and they're like, it's not like they were bad parts in the manga at all. Like they're like, I still think they're very consistent arcs.
No, they were really good arcs to follow up the future arc.
Yeah, especially the last arc. I thought like that was like a really good one.
Oh, mate.
But it didn't get a continuation in the anime, and I think the anime like had a bit of filler in between as well because it was a continuation series. It wasn't like a like what you see a lot these days where it's just like, here you go, you get your 24 episodes and you're done. Like it was literally a continuation. Yeah. And it's a shame because I would have loved to see more of what happened like in that anime version. I don't know, I think a lot of people, if you just watch the Hitman Reborn anime, you would have been disappointed because like if you don't read manga, you just been like, oh, okay, fine, that's it, that's the ending. It's even more dissatisfactory than how the manga ended in some ways because you don't get any ending at all. Sure, the manga ended pretty atrociously, but at least it's an ending in some way. This didn't get any ending. That's like, okay, cool. We defeated the big bad. That's it.
Oh, they didn't even do like a Shaman King anime where they made up an ending.
No, it's like, that's it. It just ended, and you're like, oh, fair. Okay then. I would have like if I was an anime fan, I'd be pissed. I want to see more. It's like the sort of like I guess similar with Bleach in a way. Bleach is getting its continuation anime this year or next year, I believe. So at least Bleach fans can get an ending there from the awful arc, which is the full.
They're not gonna like. They're not gonna like the end half.
I don't know. I'm still hold out hope that the Bleach anime will do a better job of fixing it somehow. I don't know if I'm putting too much faith in it, but like I do hope that like somehow the anime of Bleach is going to be better than the manga. Because the manga...
you'd hope so.
The way the Bleach manga ended, I'm like... not exactly enthralled by it, but I think maybe it'll come across better in the anime, and that's what I'm hoping. But yeah, back to Hitman Reborn. I'd love to see it continue as an anime a bit more. Get those other last 2 arcs done. Like, just finish it off.
I think it's too late for that.
It's been a while, isn't it?
It's been such a long time, and I also don't know if it's still that popular. Like the few times I've been to Japan, it's very, even when I went to J World, and they were doing the Jump anniversary, Hitman Reborn was a very tiny section. Oh, man. Yeah. And it was basically just cardboard cutouts and nothing else.
Yeah. It's a shame. Like it
So
deserves more love. This series, man. It's like it was such a good series. It's not even in fucking Jump Force. I know. Get fucking get sooner in Jump Force. Get the Hitman Reborn representation out there a bit more. Fucking like get this series some more representation because it needs it. And I want a fucking proper ending in my manga. I want a proper ending in my anime. Do it. I don't know who's gonna do it. Someone in Japan, sort it out.
yeah, see, now you know how it feels as a Fist of the North Star fan. You were laughing at me last episode where I'm like, oh, it's just pachinko machines. What has it become? And now you're like, where's my ending?
Yeah,
I want
at
it.
least you're getting your fucking pachinko machines, Nathan. What's Hitman Reborn?
Oh, yeah, because
it's got fucking cardboard cutouts, according to you.
I love sitting in my fucking pachinko parlors with all the fucking smoke and noise. Just so I can sit there being like, you were sharp.
Oh,
fucking.
man.
Oh, you're an asshole.
Hey, deal with it, Dave. You got your pachinko machines. You can live life like that.
I mean, I got Lost Paradise.
Yeah.
Like, at least I had a game that came out within the last 10 years.
Yeah. Fist of the Blue Sky's got anime, isn't it?
Yeah. From I've seen some clips of the latest, then it didn't. Some of the animation choices are a bit strange.
Fair.
Let's just leave it at that.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Any other series you want to tick off?
Yeah, go on then. One more.
Yeah, go on.
I just want to quickly mention from like I wouldn't even say the latest batch, but like a fairly recent batch of the newest stuff in Shonen Jump. Phantom Seer. That was like one of my favorite ones from a lot of the new stuff. That ended so quickly, and that sucked.
It was a really
that sucked. That ended.
Like, see. Okay, the thing is, I ended up dropping off a lot of manga at one point, so I haven't actually seen the ending of Phantom Seer. But I was like with you at the start of it. I was like consistently reading those chapters, and it was a really good series, a great supernatural series from what I was reading.
Yeah, the art style was amazing. The action was pretty good, and it had like a set path. You know, like they knew where they were going to end up, but you knew something bad was going to happen when all of a sudden the big bad just started turning up.
Yeah. Oh, that's always a sign where it's just like they're reaching the final boss really quickly right now.
Yeah. Especially when it was like, you know, it was like your monster of the week for the time being, you know, and they were growing in strength. I knew something was off when they got the main girl, I bet to do training.
Yeah.
You know, when you're like, wait, she's just gone from doing, you know, like she's got some minor supernatural ability to now she has to train so she can be more involved.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're kind of like, that's a bit soon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I think I was reading at that point with the getting her to train or whatever. And there was only like a couple or so like main characters at that point. And like usually with those like, because like with a character like Aibatsu, you like she's like a side character that sort of like gets stronger as the series goes on. And you have like the other couple of fighters which are like doing bits, and like they're like the ones you know, oh, this one's cool, this one's my favorite. But then you get Aibatsu to start training straight away, and she's doing moves. She's like coming to save the day at some points. And you're like,
yeah,
oh wow, okay, she's coming really quick. She's trained really quickly with this.
She's trained really quickly, and that was also along the same time. You know, the whole series they were like, oh, we're hunting down this one demon called Sendoju. She's the strongest demon. She's most dangerous, and like, as Aibatsu's training, they're fighting one of like Sendoju's arms or something, and you're like, what? Wait. What the shit? Sendoju's there already. Like the big bad of the series is fighting the main character already.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
me? Oh man, it's a shame because like it's not like a horror series. It's a supernatural, but like sort of like borderline like demon sort of thing. You want to see more of those series in Jump, and the moment we get
it was
like
kind of like Shaman King, to be honest.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because it was like they were even called shamans.
Yeah.
And each shaman had like a different ability based on their spirit.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a Shaman King, but in the same vein, it was different.
Yeah.
Whereas Shaman King was like, okay, I could use any spirit, and I can let them possess me, or I could infuse them into a weapon of some sort or whatever. Like, this was different. Like, you could use different spirits, but those spirits were the power. Like, you didn't infuse them into weapons, they were the weapons.
Yeah. I mean, as a series, like, I'd like to see more of it. It's a shame that it ended so soon, but if it just didn't connect, it's a shame. It's a shame that it hasn't. I want to see a good supernatural that does do that. Fair enough. Right. Well, on that note, I think we're all good. Any final words, Nathan?
I would just like to say, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, hit that bell button to get notified of when our next video is coming out.
We shall see you next time. Bye.
Bye.